Chapter 16 Pillars and Chaocipher's Minions. After a few days inside her parents' mansion, she returned to the temple. Her parents did not change much as far as she could tell right now. Sure, there were some changes, mostly from their new status and the education that came with it. But they were still the same people deep down, which relieved her greatly. Following the emotional outpouring of the first day, they talked about the multitude of preparations they had to make with her impending baptism in the coming summer. The first thing that came up was her absurd mana capacity. Well, yeah, that was why she was hiding that. Duh. Still, they planned for her to have a few brewing lessons in the near future, as apparently she needed to craft her own ring because of it. A normal one would simply be overloaded. This was not an issue in the last week because Ferdinand took care of it, but that was not an option currently, so she had to do that herself. Not that she minded, it just gave her more excuses to know brewing officially before the Royal Academy. Because of her high mana, she would need an even more advanced children's magic tool than that was normal, but she had already made plans for that. She would ask her parents again, should those fail. Her most pressing concern was her current temple attendance. Shortly after her return, she called all of them for a meeting to discuss the matter with them. She could feel their unease and nervousness like a cloud that was filling the room in a gloomy atmosphere. She ignored it and simply began to speak.
Now that you are all here, I have some important announcements to make. As you may know, I just returned from my birth family's estate. You may have suspected it, but Lady Rosalind expressed her desire to take on the role of my Vigemilge and Ervacleran, which I have gratefully accepted. I expect to complete my transfer to the estate as Shatsaria puts down her shield.
The aura of unease shifted to dread. Why? Were they worried she would leave them behind? As if she would do that.
This will, of course, mean I will leave the temple permanently. I may still check the workshop from time to time because of my investments there, but that too may soon be taken over by my future retainers. This would normally mean all of you will leave my service and get sent back to the orphanage again, or find new masters.
Some of them looked down after hearing her words. Delia even had tears in her eyes now. It was Jenny who had a pensive look on her face as she voiced her question. Normally, my lady? She simply smiled at her current head attendant. Maybe she should have clarified this from the start instead of giving them a moment to let the information sink in. They reacted very poorly to the news.
I am also glad you are asking, Jenny. Of course, I do not wish for your grace to dance between us. You are all my cherished attendants, after all. I was willing to purchase you all with my own savings, but thankfully my family accepted my desire and agreed to purchase you all to serve me as servants or exclusives in my new home. Dragonar may not spin our threads as closely together after my baptism as she does now, as I will likely get at least one new noble attendant, but I could never leave you behind like this.
Her statement evaporated the gloomy atmosphere instantly. Instead, she was rewarded with smiles, and some even looked bashful at her compliments. Delia even looked at her with a look that reminded her of Hartmut in the past. She simply chose to ignore it. She had already come to terms with it and would embrace the whole saint propaganda this time. She could hardly dispute its veracity at this point after all. She began to speak again.
This is of course only if that is your desire. I will not order you to continue your service to me. You are free to decide without consequence. This I promise you all. So, if any of you wish to decline, please step forward now."
She gave them a moment to decide, but no one made a move. Instead, they simply began to kneel before her, voicing their wishes to continue their service in her employ. She truly had such excellent and royal attendance. It made her heart warm all over again. She turned towards the male parts of her current entourage.
I must inform you that male servants are not allowed to serve me directly when I return to my family. You will simply become part of the household servant staff. Still under my direct control, but farther apart still. Are you still determined to serve me after knowing that, Fritz, Gil?"
They only waited for a moment before both of them nodded, voicing their agreement.
Very good. Yenny, please send word to arrange a meeting with the High Bishop at his earliest convenience. We have much to prepare from now on. It warms my heart to have my first pillars with me as I brave Flatrain's blessings. Let us face this trial of Glucklitet together. We will discuss future roles that you may fill at a later date. Also, send word to my chefs to have them prepare a good meal for you all in addition to my usual course. Think of it as part of my heartfelt thanks for your steadfast loyalty.
Maybe she laid that one on too thick. Delia wasn't the only one who had tears in her eyes now. Oh well. She dismissed them all after informing them she would remain inside of her hidden room until tomorrow to rest, and made her way towards it. She had to accelerate some of her size project now. Stepping inside, she closed the entrance and moved to sit at her favorite chair once again. She took mental stock of what she could possibly fulfill in the remaining time inside the temple. She could not really move as freely once she joined her family estate. There would be a need to set up a new teleportation circle somewhere outside the city for possible nightly excursions going forward. She also not finished all of her bloody carnivals yet. The fiend who wrecked her bookroom and helped in stealing her Bible still walked around unimpeded. Poor Brother Eggman simply had to wait for his turn, she feared. Sad circumstances indeed. Which left her with just the small stuff. She eyed her last remaining stealth outfit, the bundle laying innocently beside her modified kitchen knife. Maybe... No, it was ridiculous to target a man just for being an inconvenience in her past life. Still, his actions had hurt Lutz and put her in danger too. She would not kill him then, but she was curious if she could find something incriminating in his house. He had to have records of previous crimes, she reasoned. Yes, she would pay him a visit tonight and search his ledgers, or whatever he used. It would most likely be the last time she could stretch her legs for some time, except for the trip for a new teleportation position, so why the hell not? She stood up and moved towards the small couch she had commissioned to lay down until night had fallen. Better to rest early if you wish to move around during the night, after all. The ringing of the 7th bell announced it was time for her to prepare for her excursion. She donned her stealth outfit again. She opted to wear the face mask from the beginning this time. The sword-like knife found its place at her belt for easy access. She did not plan to use it, but it never hurt to be prepared. Reciting the prayer to Verbogen shrouded her in its blessing once more. Opening the entrance to her room, she saw that the air was clear. Excellent. Navigating the lonely corridors of the now silent temple was second nature at this point. It took her no time at all to arrive at an unused storage room with a window. Opening it, thanks to her small stature, she could easily use it as her exit from the temple. Using enhancement magic, she landed on the ground outside, looking around if anyone was near or had seen her. The blessing was not perfect, after all. Finding no other soul around her, she made her way outside of the temple perimeter and jumped up, landing on the roof of a nearby building. She began jumping from roof to roof, making her way to her target's location, periodically making sure no one on the night patrol riding a high beast saw her advance. There was none to see at all. It took her only a few minutes of travel to reach her destination. Looking around the building, she spied one of the windows in the upper floor still open, likely for more air circulation. Backing up a bit on the roof she was currently nesting herself on, she began a slight sprint, jumping off the roof and across the street, landing on a crouch on a windowsill. Luckily, Verbigen's blessing muffled the sound she would have made with the stunt completely. She began to scan the room she had before her now. It looked like a bedroom combined with an office. Perfect. Getting off the windowsill, she entered the room proper and began to move towards the corner of the room on her right. She placed the first part of the area silencing tool she had prepared just for such an occasion. The tool would muffle any sound made in its range, allowing her to search a desk without alerting the person currently sleeping atop of the bed inside the room. She placed the other parts in every corner until finally placing the central piece in the middle of the room, before channeling her mana inside of it, causing the familiar translucent blue walls to be erected. She began to make her way towards the lone figure atop the bed and began her prayer to Schlaftrum. It was maybe overkill considering the field she just erected, but better safe than sorry. The soft glitter leaving her improvised noble ring settled on the figure, ensuring her prayer took effect. Now then, it was time for the price she did all of that for. She turned towards the desk she saw earlier. As she began to take a look through the countless documents, she could only frown about the sheer mass of crimes the scumbag had done over the years. From paid murders to simple theft, everything was present. The most disturbing fact she discovered was that the man had built a booming network to smuggle poison to whoever was willing to pay for it. Naturally, his clientele was mostly nobles from the Veronica faction, but some merchant entities too. It wasn't until she arrived at the fourth board containing a list of names, all buyers of poison, that she stopped in her tracks. This name, Lady Vivienne. Was that not the name of her father's second wife who poisoned her mother? She checked again, and indeed the poison ordered and delivered was one of the more niche poisons to target a pregnant woman. It was not deadly for the woman, but heavily complicated the whole pregnancy, if she remembered what she read in a book once, right. White-hot anger began to bubble to the surface of her thoughts. This vermin had supplied Vivienne with the supplies needed to poison her mother, resulting in not only endangering her own life, but more importantly, it was the reason her angel of a sister, Thule, was low in capacity, resulting in her adoption to another family, hurting her mother more in the process too. She began to pack all of the documents into a sack she had taken with her. She could read the rest later. She had other things to do now. Finishing the task, she simply laid the filled bag against the wall beside the open window. Taking out the rope she had prepared in case she would have to climb, she moved towards the bed and began to systematically bind the man's hands behind his back, followed with his feet being bound as well. Having now successfully restrained the vermin of a man to her satisfaction, She used enhancement magic again, lifting his slumped form out of the bed before giving a hard slap in the face. The power of her hit woke him with a pained yelp and threw him to the ground at her feet. He wiggled around for a bit, before realizing his position and becoming as stiff as a board of wood. She used her foot to turn his body around so that she could look at his face. At first, it had a nervous look, but as soon as he saw who actually took him captive, it bloomed into confusion. "What? A kid? Who the fuck are you? What do you want from me?" She silently drew her blade, letting the metal reflect the moonlight just below his eyes. They focused on her weapon as sweat started to form on his face, which had taken a fearful expression now. Wait. Calm down." She let him sweat in silence a little bit more before finally beginning to talk at the trash at her feet.
"Verdrena has seen fit to send me to deliver her punishment. I take it you know why I am here, Wolf?"
"A girl? You're a noble. No, wait, please. Please wait. I don't know what you mean, milady." She lifted her right foot and stomped atop of his lower leg, resulting in a sickening crunch as her enhanced kick turned the bones in his leg to splinters, making him howl in pain, beginning to convulse in the ground. She simply stared at him for a few moments, letting his pain sobbing grow into a pitiful whimper. Please, no. I'm sorry. What I did. Please, spare me. Please spare me, milady."
"So you do not even know your slight against Gabardinung? Truly a pity."
She angled her blade and pierced his left thigh next, turning the blade for good measure before removing it from her victim's body. She had missed his artery on purpose. She did not want him to bleed out just yet. She moved slightly towards him and repeated her stabbing, this time in his right shoulder, pinning him to the floor as his begging for mercy continued. Too bad. She was just fresh out of mercy. No one hurts her sister. She lifted her right foot again and used it to turn his face sideways to the ground, pinning him by his jaw. The looks of panic directed her way were slightly cathartic. She had no opportunity to see the looks of her enemies in the past, given the circumstances. It was a new experience for her.
"Do you know how much your business under Verbiage and Shroud did to my family, How much my good old suffered because of Chaocipher's poison you supplied?"
I didn't mean to." She increased the pressure on his face slightly to stop him from whimpering.
"Of course you don't. You did not care either, so why should I care what happens to you now, I wonder?"
She increased the pressure until she heard a satisfying snap of his bones breaking, before removing her foot from his now broken jaw. She stabbed his left arm next, resulting in a wet garble from him. She began sending a prayer up to Hellschmerz, the glittering light escaping her ring, falling upon the mangled body of Wolf, causing his wounds to close and any broken bones to mend themselves. His screams of pain turned to terror instead, which she quickly returned to pain ones with another stab, cutting his nose clean off. If not for her silencing tool, the screams would have surely been heard in the next block. She kicked him in the stomach to silence his irritating screams. They were too loud for her taste.
"The two of us will be having so much fun," as Dragoner spins her thread. "Oh, but don't worry. I will make sure you do not ascend to the heights. Yet. We still have so much to talk about, you and I. Rejoice, your input is not even necessary for it. Simply sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Oh, silly me. I nearly forgot. Do not worry about waking your neighbors with your cries. I made sure you can scream to your heart's content without anyone hearing you beyond this room. Is that not simply wonderful? We will just heal you again and again until you finally learn your lesson. She finished her rant with another stab at his arm, slightly lower than her first. It would be a long night indeed. She would make sure of that. She kicked him in his thigh to turn his body around, the sudden movement causing his bleeding stump to spray blood into her face mask. Oh, look what you did! Because of you, I am dirty now too. You're really like Evie Glebe in the summer, aren't you?
Please have mercy, milady. I beg of you. No more, please.
Denied. She stepped on his bound hands next with a stomp, the force disfiguring the appendage to a bloody pulp and denting the ground slightly. Yeah, too much force. She would simply take this opportunity to refine her control. Another stomp onto his lower arms only broke his arm. Much better. She healed Wolf again. His look of horror was simply a delight. She had so much still to test before the night ended. She had only just begun. After Wolf's demise, she cleaned the place up with a simple wash and prayer, before repeating the action on herself to remove any blood still clinging to her. She used the bed cover to mantle the bled-out body. It looked like a mummy now, she mused. She gathered the silencing tool. Before moving towards the window, she looked around outside to check if any knights were in the vicinity, or if some other witness was in the area. Seeing none, she moved towards her victim again. Taking hold of the corpse and slinging it onto her back, she moved towards the window again and summoned her high beast to hover just before the window. She opened the back and threw her baggage unceremoniously inside of it. Afterwards, she commanded it to turn slightly so she could board her transport herself, taking the bag of documents with her before entering herself. She moved her right towards the forest bordering the city and flew for a few miles, just to make sure. She spied a small clearing and began her descent. After landing, she exited her ride, and after unloading the corpse, she simply dumped it on the cold forest ground beneath a tree. Maybe it would be found eventually, or more likely, some fey beast would get a meal out of it. She didn't really care. Leaving the corpse behind, she boarded her high beast again to begin the trip back to the city. Landing on a roof just behind the walls, she exited again and looked around. Just how lax was security that she could simply leave and enter the city with a high beast without any patrol picking up on it? She simply thanked Grieferchen for the obvious blessing. Using enhancement magic again, she began her trek across the roofs back towards the temple. Arriving back at the temple, she entered through the window and stalked her way to her chambers, before entering her hidden room undetected. After going in, she laid the bag holding the evidence beneath her desk. She then stripped out of her stealth outfit, stashing it in the corner of her room, together with her blade and other equipment. She cast another washon upon them and herself, just in case, the action causing her ring to disintegrate the golden sand. So much for that. She dressed herself back into her normal underclothes and shrine maiden garb before laying back onto her comfortable couch. She closed her eyes once again for more rest. Her attendants would wake her soon after all.